Yesterday we talked about the 6-point demand that the PDP group loyal to Nyase Wike gave to the National Working Committee that it must meet if they are going to have a peaceful national convention. PDP has now replied him saying that we cannot be intimidated. We can't allow ourselves to be, put into under crisis. We must go on with our convention. And they're saying that Wike and Co, they should find a way to, come back to the party and help the party to move forward. Then, ever since former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, made that very allegation on TV, saying that the government of Nigeria has been funding bandits, has been paying bandits, we are seeing different reactions. 2 days ago, it was somebody who served in El-Rufai's government who came on TV to castigate El-Rufai, saying that he had no moral right for him to have said what he said because it was the same way that he told when he was the governor of that very state. Yesterday, it was Dati Baba Ahmed, the vice presidential candidate of Labour Party in the 2023 presidential election. He was also on TV yesterday, and he spoke in that very respect, saying that El-Rufai had no moral right for him to pontificate. In fact, he said that for him, what he feels should be happening now is that El-Rufai should be invited for him to tell the police or the court what he knows about the allegation that he has put out. He also told the office of the NSA that the rebuttal wasn't enough. Rather, they should go ahead to investigate the allegations he made for us to find out if there's any element of truth in that. Then we'll come back to Anambra State, where we have seen the state, the Anambra State Independent Electoral Commission, ANSEC, announcing schedule for local government elections by 2026. They are saying that by August 29th, 2026, is going to hold a local government election, and of course, so he has told parties for them to begin the preparation for this very election. And the last thing I'm going to talk about here in Anambra State is the kind of virtual, or I can say brickbat I have seen in the past 2 days. No thanks to the appointment of Chief Chido Bidiegu as the head of media directorate, Ikukwama Iyom Ekunife campaign organization. That his appointment has stirred some kind of brickbat and virtual between the camp of the incumbent government and then the opposition, in this case the APC. Now, for the camp of the APC, they see the appointment of Chido as a good addition to the campaign team of Nicholas Okachukwu, which, according to them, that he has unsettled the incumbent camp. But we have seen certain aides of the governor who have dismissed this with just a wave of hand, saying that he's inconsequential. But where my concern is, I have seen some personal attacks on his person. People trying to denigrate him, saying that he was of no use. Don't forget that he was sometime the MD of the state-owned broadcast house before he was relieved of the appointment. And now when you now see this very aide, begin to attack his person, saying that he was inconsequential. In fact, somebody even said that he pulled down the station when he was the MD. And I think that we should maintain decorum when it comes to this very campaign, so that we don't descend into a situation where we get to hit up the polity, that people can become afraid of possible crisis.
Well, all of those happened in the last 24 to 48 hours, but of course, all of the things we're going to be talking about today are not going to be done by just Franklin and I. Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki is here to do justice to the analysis. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning. Chisom Chile. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, Indianambra. Good morning, Onitsha. Wherever you are listening to us, it's always a pleasure to be here. As we always say, this is our sanctuary. We are back here to do justice to some of the developing issues we have around the town. Remember, we can't be here without the help of the God Almighty, who has made it possible for us to be here this very morning. And today being the second day in the month of September, that tells you a lot. We're in Imba month. We are here to look at different issues in the country, beyond, and also. So I was actually listening when we were talking about Chido Bidiegu. I think the issue, some of these propagandists, they will stoke violence or they will stoke issue where there is none. Whether he was sacked or relieved of his appointment, and I think in football, we must take some kind of lessons. In the last 1 week, we are told that 3 Manchester United managers have been sacked by their respective clubs. Fenerbahce sacking Jose Mourinho. You also have Ole Gunnar Solskjaer being sacked by Besiktas. And then you also had, I think the last one, who was also relieved. But the twin is Eric Ten Hag being relieved by Bayer Leverkusen. So in all of this, whether you are sacked or not, I don't like. The key thing remains that somebody took this issue where it ordinarily wouldn't have been, and they're using the propagandist machine. I'm aware from my own analysis, yes, the man in view, the man in question, during his time as MD, at first the governor sacked him. The chief press secretary released the sack statement, but at the point governor said no, you have to give him a soft landing, and then he was given a soft landing, and then 2 statements were issued on that issue. Why? Because the governor felt that you don't need to sack, you don't use the word sack, it's a cake. You can easily say that you relieve somebody of his appointment and then say, see if he can redeployed. But APC and Afghan started using it as campaign rhetorics, but that's politics for. But just like you said, let it not degenerate into personal attacks. But that's by the way anyway. But that's what happened. The most important thing is during political season, people say all manner of things, either to push their campaigns and all that. But the most important or potent tool will be campaign on issues. Or issue-based campaign, as we usually say. That's the most potent.
Oh, well, what I have to say is the fact that a player is not playing for you doesn't stop him from being a player. He can play for any other club.
Yes.
So when you relieve a player of responsibilities and you don't want him to play again,
no, transfers also happen because a player can play for you today and play
very
for another
simple
club side yesterday. Now, before
very
you go
simple.
on, did you see this very speculation about whether Donald Trump is alive or dead? And despite the fact that Trump has even come out to speak, in fact, even yesterday, he tweeted in respect to the military parade that happened in China, people are still believing that Trump is dead. Because some people didn't see him in some public functions, in public places for a couple of hours or just for one day. And this rumor is just going viral everywhere.
Well, let's see how long they can put it off for. If Trump is there, surely he would answer. Trump is not one to let people answer for him.
Trump, he was on his social media yesterday.
Videos,
Right.
no pictures, right? When I saw that, all I said to myself was, if Trump already answer, he will answer if he's actually well. Because first it was talks about him being unwell, and then before the whole talk about him being dead came up. So fingers crossed. We see what happens in the coming days. Well, we have the Nation newspaper on our desk. We have the Punch, we have Vanguard, and the Guardian newspaper. And quickly, we'd let you know what the front pages say. And of course, we are starting with the Nation newspaper. The banner headline here is Tinubu. We have met 2025 revenue target, gained stability. The story has riders. Number one being government diversifying to agric, non-oil sector. Another one here, Abbas Al-Makura lead Buhari's men to pledge support. And that's it for that banner headline on page 2. Another headline here, quite written boldly on page 3. Wike camp gives condition for PDP convention to hold. Group insists in Congress rule of law. We can't be intimidated, says Bala Mohammed. This is on page 3. On page 4, ex-IG Arase served with honor. Dignity, says Jonathan Ehindero. On page 4 as well. And now above the banner headline, 60-year-old delivered of babies at Abuad Teaching Hospital on page 5. BPE to list 2 discos, Genco and Stock Exchange. The riders, FMBN, FHA, Film Corporation, others for commercialization on page 2. Above the nameplate of the paper, Shetima to President, I won't take our bond for granted on page 4. Lagos to host Electric Power Boat Championship on page 3. Adjacent varsity lectures Lecturers withdraw services over unpaid salaries on page 5. Nigeria braces for cyber digital diplomacy, says Tuga on page 4.
Then, that headline where the Shetima said he won't take the bond he shares with Mr. President for granted. And my question is, what if Mr. President takes the bond for granted in the next presidential election? Then over to the Punch newspaper, we have this headline that says, Convention, Wike's camp demands, or rather, Wike's camp demands ignite fresh PDP feud. Stories on page 2. He has a rider marking this camp. Party governors BOT reject FCT ministers convention conditions, Damagun's removal, all that. Then beside the nameplates, the headline here says 2025 revenue target met, no more borrowing. Tinubu. The story is on page 25. I was asking myself whether the president was quoted out of context or whether what he said was not actually reported, because the issue of saying that we have met our revenue target for 2025 and then no more borrowings, time will tell us. Again, Southwest tops as voter pre-registration hits 2.5 million. The story is on page 7, and I must say that this very voter registration has been generating some controversies. People have been misunderstanding pre-registration to mean actual registration, and they are not the same. And then this one says tariff war, respect state electricity regulators. FG warns discourse. The story is on page 23 of our Punch newspaper. CNG price hits 450 naira per standard cubic meter as FG withdraws subsidies. The story is on page 21. They are saying that the price of standard cubic of CNG has gotten up to between 350 to 450 naira because federal government has a rule subsidy in certain areas in that very respect. Then another story here says customs intercept firearms, 4,841 ammunition in Southwest. The story is on page 21. National Assembly cautions WAEC on planned CBT rollout. The story is on page 28. The National Assembly is saying that we still have some infrastructural gap and then gap in technology. So WAEC should be cautious when rolling out. 3 Lagos laborers found dead in makeshift apartment. The story is on page 4 and 5. The story says that they were found dead in the morning, and from what people gathered, unknown persons invaded where they were living and used machete to inflict different cuts on them. And the last story we have here says that Atiku slams FG as bandits sack Kwara village. The story is on page 28.
Oh, well, when I saw that story about the insecurity in terms of the persons who were attacked with machetes, I don't know. It was really a very sad thing to see, especially as at this point in time we have a lot of insecurity going on in different parts of the country, and then having people just sleep and wake up, like that, just like the ones who were also attacked and their houses burnt and over 180 of them caught up in that arson attack. It's really a very, very sad thing to witness as a Nigerian. But let's go to other papers on our desk this morning. We have
Guardian newspaper. So let's look at the Guardian newspaper and see what we have there. On Guardian newspaper, we have the banner headline says Tinubu Palace CPC Group says revenue target met amid data gaps. The story is on page 6. He met with the group that was led by former Governor of Nasarawa State, Makura. This one says Defense Headquarters denies armed forces supporting payments of criminal groups. It's on page 3. FG list 91 public firms for privatization is on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Dangote Refinery exports fresh gasoline cargo to US. The story is on page 2. And then enough is enough. PDP governors tell Wike dismiss threat to abort convention. Is on page 6. Opposition seeks legal redress for Rivers local government poll irregularities is on page 28. Those who contested the LG polls under Labour Party, they are the ones who have come together to challenge that very election. ADC accuses Tinubu of nepotism as Atiku decries rising insecurity. The story is on page 20. And then CVR, Oshun maintains lead with 474,372 as INEC registers 2.5 million in 2 weeks. This very, I keep on saying this, in the way we cast headlines for us to get the attention, sometimes it gets to mislead people or confuse them to begin to generate ideas that are not credible and are based on found statements. Then this one says court voids mandatory 15-year service requirement for soldiers. The story is on page 5, and I must say that yesterday, Effiong Gidibehe, of course, this very case he celebrated it because he was the one who was standing in for that very army officer who was whose resignation was rejected by the Nigerian army on the ground that there was a guiding rule within the military that once you have been enlisted, you must stay for a certain number of years before you resign. So when the story came out yesterday, Effiong actually, he splashed the story everywhere to celebrate that very court judgment yesterday. So these are the headlines we have this morning on these very papers.
All right, then we are going to proceed to the other paper on our desk this morning, and that will be the Vanguard newspaper. And on the Vanguard newspaper, banner headline here: National Convention, PDP draws battle line with Wike camp on page 5. The rider, Wike's campsites court orders, demands fresh congresses in Anambra, Ebonyi, Southeast. And of course, another headline here, another banner, another rider here, warns against micro-zoning of presidential ticket. Others, you can't hold party to ransom. PDP fires back. Des Wike, Autumn, Fayoshe, Ibazu, Ugwangi, others to form faction. Mohammed Fintiri Wabara, Damagum, talk tough. All of these you'd find on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. Now above that you'd find DMO tells states to prioritize PPP, not borrowing, on page 20. We've met our revenue target, no longer borrowing from domestic banks. That's from President Tinubu on page 26. Ward redelineation in under fire as the security nation calls for probe on page 12. States have no excuse not to pay beyond 70,000 naira minimum wage. By NECA, visa overstay, US, UK ramp up warnings may ban violators on page 8. Ghana President fires Chief Justice over abuse of office on page 7. And on the sports column, Eagles camp comes alive as training begins in Uyo. And of course, from the headlines, we're going to go straight into the politics of the day. We are starting with that statement credited to the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday concerning Nigeria's financial status as a country. Reports have it that he said that Nigeria has met its target as of August, and that no local borrowing is happening. He said no borrowing is happening within Nigeria, no borrowing from Nigerian banks, and all of that. But like you pointed out earlier, Franklin, that particular statement has come under a lot of scrutiny. I'm going to quickly just read out a part of that statement. I've been actually trying to pull up the video, but it seems like the network is not being very friendly. He also started off by apologizing to Nigerians about how much effect this particular, would I call it, his administration has been having on the people concerning the source of livelihood of people being sort of affected by the policies that have been made so far. And so he said the economy is now stabilized. Nobody is trading pieces of paper for foreign exchange, that's forex, anymore. The economy is now predictable. You don't need to know the CBN governor, Yemi Cardoso, to obtain foreign exchange or import goods. He also said what we need now is building the ship and the vessels for the export of our goods and creating more jobs for our people. And of course, all of these things. He also said the federal government will establish agricultural mechanization centers in all regions of the country to build capacity, expand cultivation and harvest, and guarantee food sovereignty. He said we're going to have trainees, and that our program is our path to food sovereignty. Tony, a lot of things being he addressed yesterday. One being our food sovereignty. Can we feed ourselves enough that we now have to establish relationships for export? I recall when the conversation about genetically motivated products came up, there were talks about how our agricultural products do not meet up to the international standards. Some being because we do not, genetically tweak things to make them more sustainable, to make them even look, outside of looking better, to even improve their quality, making it, possible for our products to get spoiled really quick as against what we get to import. And so many other factors that have affected are being able to really export. And so the question is, have we been able to feed ourselves effectively? Yes, the price of beans has come down. The price of beans coming down, does that translate to more Nigerians being able to feed themselves, especially like I pointed out, about how their finances have been attacked since the current government policies we are, set on board? So Nigerians now, can they afford more food? And the food that is available, is it enough to go around in terms of demand and supply? Do they meet each other at the center? And also, the quality of our agricultural products, has it gotten there that we can export?
You asked two questions.
Hydra-headed, I know.
Yeah, that's just that.
One
and then, I know you started with the issue of Mr. President's statement, and you trickled it down to issue of food when he was actually trying to say that we are self-sufficient when it comes to food, and you want to find out if truly are we self-sufficient. And when he said that we've met our revenue target, what is our revenue target? And he said it was as a result of non-oil sector. How true is that statement? And what has been Mr. President's borrowing plans, and how he has been able to show up the revenue, and how these things have been able to impact on the lives of an average Nigerian? Many Nigerians have said it many times, they don't like grammar. We have achieved this, we have achieved that. They'll wait for you and ask you, has that changed any price of any commodity in the market? Has that also changed the rent, hospital bills, and anything that has to do with education? What about transportation costs? These are silent issues. So if you come now to tell them we have done this, we have done that, they look at indices on the ground and ask you otherwise question, and the questions will be, has it reduced the cost of transportation? Has it reduced the cost of education? Has it reduced the cost of Medicare? Has it reduced the cost of food? These are questions. Let's go by questions you ask on the issue of food. Nigeria, take it anywhere. Most times we try as much as we can to educate the public. Nigeria spends approximately $10 billion annually on food imports to meet domestic demands. I'm quoting reports by the federal government as at August 2025. We spend about $10 billion annually. That's the report, not my report. And you look at what are those types of food we import. We import wheat. Nigeria, let me say this, is one of the world's largest wheat importer. Our import, as at last record, I can only rely on the records I have before me. As at 2021, we imported about $3 billion worth of wheat. Remember, wheat is a staple for bread. 60% of wheat consumptions. Even semolina and pasta, these things are produced using wheat. In fact, as of 2022, wheat was the second most imported good, with about 315.1 billion naira spent in the first 9 months. That was in 2022. So we talk about rice. We know very well that there have been efforts to boost local production, but Nigeria still imports rice to cover a deficit of about 3 million metric tons. In a year, out of 6.7 million metric tons consumed annually, Nigeria consumes 6.7 million metric tons of rice annually. But the ones we can produce locally, we only can produce about 3 million metric tons. So the deficit is about 3.7 million metric tons. We also import sugar. Remember, cane sugar for refining is a major import. I must also let you know that as at 2021, based on available records I was able to lay my hands on, we have spent about 135.7 billion naira to import sugar in the first 9 months of 2021. You talk about fish. I'm also aware that we import fish at about 1 million metric tons annually, but demand exceeds this very figure, no doubt. But even in 2021, we know that it was part of the $9 billion food import. But then just remember, like I say, that as at 2025, we spent about $10 billion on food import. So I can go on and tell you about tomato paste, dairy products, seafood, beverages, processed food products. I can go on and tell you. So when you say we are self-sufficient, the figures do not tally, do not support these statements. For me, these statements are political statements. Then coming back to your next question, I know you did say something about the issue of revenue. It's important. Yesterday, Mr. President met with some group led by Tanko Amokura, the former governor of Nassau State, and then a CPC bloc in the APC alliance, where Mr. President made it very clear that they are all one. But we are not looking at that meeting. We are looking at what Mr. President said during the meeting. He did say that the country has met its revenue target.
What is this revenue he speaks of? Because I didn't see it in that statement. And at what point are we? Have we made the exact figure? Have we surpassed it? You know, these are two valid data that one would have thought would have been in that statement.
You asked a very important question, no doubt. And I must also let you know that when Mr. President said that we've met the revenue target, no need of external borrowing. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. It's important. Let's talk about the issue of borrowing and come back to the issue of the revenue target, whether we have met it or we have not met it.
Sorry, let me say this because if at this very morning I read 4 newspapers, the same story. Some persons were reporting that he said we don't need borrowing. Some are reporting that he said we are not borrowing locally. Some reported that we are not borrowing externally. So I'm expecting that the president should make clarification on what the president said.
Some said we don't need borrowing.
I'm expecting the president should make clarification on it because this very statement appears to be a political statement made at the spur of the moment. Why am I saying this? Today, I'll say come back to you. Why am I saying this? If you look at the 2025 budget of Nigeria, of course, because I think that's where we have to start. If you look at that very budget, we have a budget of 28.78 trillion. That's what we have. And we were expecting that we'll be able to make a revenue of 18.32 trillion. That's what we were expecting. Of course, we are running deficit. We are running deficit on that very one. Then if we are running deficit on that very budget and we make more revenue, okay, technically we can say we've been able to meet the expectation, but it doesn't mean that it's a hero for Nigeria. Then secondly, look at that very budget. That budget has an oil production of 1.78 million barrels per day as a benchmark. But currently, if you look at what we're producing about 1.5 million barrels per day.
That's a shortage.
But when you add the condensate, we are about 1.78 million barrels per day. Then you look at the benchmark for the price of
FX.
a barrel of crude oil in the international market. If you look at the price that is quoted in that very budget, then compare it with what is selling now, because now A barrel of crude oil sells for about between 68 to 69.13 dollars per barrel. That's what it is now in the international market. Then when you now compare it with what we have in that very budget, which is $77, or let's say $77 96 cents per barrel. That's what we have in the budget. Then look at the exchange rate, 750 naira per dollar. Now we're doing 1,400, 1,500.
That's a point that really got me really thinking. How do we even call stability? How do we even call
how do you manage to do this?
$1 to 1,500, 1,600 stability, Tony?
Right. So Tony, looking at these very things I just gave out now, so how did we manage to be able to meet this target, knowing that there are shortfalls in our estimation, and then what we are doing currently?
I have to go straight to the analysis of what Mr. President said and then the feasibility as well. Let's begin by facts before us, because all my analysis is based on facts and the law. Anything sentiment, I don't know. Maybe by the time I'm done, the facts and then the law I presented may be against your sentiment. You come back and say you are biased. But the facts and the law do not say I am biased.
Let's go straight
to the issue. Mr. President, we know very well that we have our 2025 revenue target and budget. The 2025 Appropriation Act projects a total revenue of about 41.91 trillion to fund such a budget. At that our budget, I'm aware that it is about 54.99 trillion budget. That's the total budget after it was prohibited. So if you have a budget of about 54.99 trillion with a revenue projection of 41.91 trillion, revenue simply means the money you are going to make within that period, within that year, the money you are going to make either from transactions, oil, non-oil sector, and different sectors. That's the money you're going to make. 54.99 trillion is the total revenue, the total budget expenditure cap, and then you projected that out of that 54.99 trillion, that you're going to make about 41.91 trillion. So with a deficit of about 13.08 trillion, the budget on itself is by default a deficit budget. Deficit in the sense that the proposed amount you want to spend, you will not be able to bring revenue to measure it or to level it up, or to the revenue that you are going to bring will not be equal to the total expenditure. That is why it is deficit. But you projected in that budget that you'll be able to make about 49 point something trillion. So 41.91 trillion rather. Now, in that budget, you told us that about 10.39 trillion will come from non-oil sector. You also told us that oil sector will give us about 7.94 trillion. In fact, the budget assumes an average oil production of about 1.78 million barrels per day at a benchmark price of about $77.96 per barrel and an exchange rate of about 750 naira to the dollars. Now, we have established that there were conflicting reports on Mr. President's announcement. We don't need external borrowing, we don't need the domestic borrowing, we don't need any borrowing. I think that's just the conflicting report without any categorization of the kind of borrowing he was actually talking about.
And so, but even if he categorizes it, Tony, the implication is that if you are still borrowing, that means you have still not been able to balance out your economy.
That is it. Let's go back to fact checking what Mr. President said, but because we are here to do some fact checking. Remember, achieving a full year revenue target of about 41.91 trillion in 8 months. August is the 8th month. That is January to August. implies an unprecedented revenue collection rate. For context purpose, the 2024 budget achieved 14.55 trillion in revenue over the entire year, the last year budget. How much did the country make totally from all the collectibles, from all the revenues they collected? The country made 14.55 trillion.
So what changed?
So for the entire year, I'm just trying to give you some kind of breakdown. We are told that it was about 75% increase from the previous year. That was in 2023. So if you look at it, to reach what Mr. President is trying to tell us is that when he said that we have met our revenue target, he's in other ways trying to tell us that we have met about 41.91 trillion in 8 months. 41.91 trillion in 8 months. In that case, it means that we'll be collecting about 5.24 trillion per month. So if you go by, just like I said, we are just trying to fast check what Mr. President said. Remember, he was actually saying that the amount was made on non-oil revenue, which was projected at 10.39 trillion for the full year. Even with the tax reforms and even improved compliance, scaling non-oil revenue to cover the target in 8 months, the truth remains that these statements, honestly speaking, I want to be modest. I want to be modest because we've been able to look at different revenue collectible by every month. But then being modest, it could be misleading. No doubt. It could be misleading because Mr. President claimed that Nigeria achieved its 2025 revenue target of 41.91 trillion in August, primarily through non-oil revenue. In fact, it lacks sufficient independent evidence to be confirmed. And truly, there are administration's reform, no doubt, such as foreign exchange stabilization, tax administration improvements, which may likely boost the non-oil revenue. The scale of collecting 41.91 trillion in 8 months, nearly 3 times the 2024 full year revenue of 14.55 trillion, appears extraordinary. In fact, it requires detailed substantiation. No doubt.
So we are waiting for that because we cannot do that detailed substantiation ourselves. We are waiting for Bureau of Statistics and the offices involved to give the answers to that. But also, before you come in, Franklin, I am curious to find out what we call stability. This idea of FX being stable, and last I checked, it's still revolving around 1,520 naira, nothing less than 1,500. Should we sleep calling that stability, especially when we are heavily import dependent? Franklin, you were about to.
Okay, so let me respond before I come in.
The truth remains, when you talk about stability, they measure stability in the area of forex. When you hear that stability, that word stability, they are not measuring it in areas of commodity prices. No, they are not looking at it from that angle. They're looking at it from the angle of forex, that we have been able to achieve stability.
I get your point. I mean, for the Nigerians who are going to be affected, because whatever forex is at, we get to bear the brunt.
Definitely.
So the question is, should we call this stability by the federal government? The common man, 30 million people sunk deeper into the hole of poverty, and that means we're estimating about 160 million people out of an estimated population of 250 million people. It means that about 65% of us are poor. And so the question is, should we really, is it fair to call that stability?
It is not fair. It is not fair. The measure of how good the government is on the people. You can't just claim anything and it is not seen on the people. It's not done. That we have achieved this, we have achieved that. The best way to examine how true that could be will be when you look at the plight of the people. Are the people better off? Are they doing well? Are things working well for them? The last I checked, nothing has changed in the area of education. The last I checked, nothing has changed in the area of health. The last I checked, nothing has changed in the area of transportation. We could see little changes when it comes to the prices of food commodities. We could see little changes. We've seen that in the price of curry. We've seen that in the price of tube of yam. We've seen that in the price of rice. We've seen that in the price of maize, wheat, and some little changes. So we can't just, with the dropping of the prices, because definitely when you look at the headline inflation rate, they will tell you that the food category, the inflation has dropped from so figure to so figure. No doubt, we have seen that many times. But even when these little prices drop, the question is, the people, can they still afford the food commodities with the latest prices? The answer is no. One thing we must also admit is that the earnings of state governments has also increased. Through the removal of fuel subsidies, state government boasts getting about 3 times their previous allocation under President Muhammad Buhari. We must say this. And most governors now will tell you that we're able to achieve, or we're able to do what we are doing now because we have seen an increased allocation as a result of fuel subsidy. But has that been able to solve the critical questions? What are the critical questions? One, the living standard of the people. Essentially, food, shelter, health, education. If you talk about the Millennium Development Goals and then the SG goals, so many of them anchor all these things on these key indices. We have not seen improvement in these things. And for the fact that whatever government does, no matter how they do their acrobatics, no matter how they do their abracadabra, no matter how they do their augmentation and whatever they do, where we are looking at them is in the amen. When a Catholic priest begins his prayer in Latin, secula seculorum, the congregants wait for him in what? Amen.
So you're talking at the end point, the end justifying the
that
means.
is where it ends.
Okay, so I agree with you, because if you want to look at it from the point of the reality on ground, of course you get to know that Nigerians are not feeling that.
It's an aberration.
But if you want to look at it from the point of macroeconomics, of course there's a point in what they're saying, that we have been able to record stability in the foreign exchange rate. Take for instance, I'll give you one instance of using 2 things that are very common. In Nigeria, we use soap, we use cosmetics, and most of the soap and cosmetics we use, they are imported. And I'll give you an example of one. I'm not going to mention the brand. This very body cream used to sell for 5,000 naira. The very first time I bought it was 5,000. But as I'm talking to you, in space of 5 months, the price moved from 5,000 to 14,000 naira. That's the cost now.
That's almost 300%.
Exactly. So there's one particular soup there that was selling for 800 naira. Now it's selling for 1,400 because of the volatility. And I can recall that in the past month, before we got to this level we are in now, every day you are calling the market asking for the price. And somebody will tell you, oh, better buy today because tomorrow the price is going to change. So from that very point of macroeconomic point of view, you can understand where they're coming from. But the common man on the street is yet to feel this very impact, because we want to see a situation whereby the phones we used to buy at 80,000 naira, we should be able to buy them at 80,000 naira, because the phones now are around 100.
You are not producing the phones here. The foreign exchange comes in. Without the foreign exchange dropping, some of these things could be bought in a high.
No, hold on. The stability we're talking about is where people begin to see that reversal. That's what I'm talking about. Because even the, what's it called again? You import the food, but when you show up your economy and you begin to export, of course it will have impact on your currency. It happens across the world. What you need to do is to show up your economy, begin to export, so that you don't depend so much. Once you don't depend so much on importation, your currency begin to gain value.
Two things here.
Just hold on. Then the second area which I want to point at it, because each time government talks about the reforms that they have carried out that are impacting on whatever is impacting, each time they mention the tax reform, I don't get to understand it, because the bills were passed and assented to, and they have become laws. They have not become operational. They are going to come into effect by January 1st, 2026. So why do we now always reference them as part of the reform that are bringing the positives in the economy?
Just another question there, Tony. You're expected to answer that, but then of course I'm curious to find out when you spoke about stability, Tony, when the two of you try to, make simpler what happens with the economy, it also brought about certain questions from my end. So, Franklin, you say the price has become relatively stable, but it has jumped. So from 5,000, it has jumped to 14,000. But then you can relax knowing that for the next few months, it's going to be 14,000 since the economy stabilized. But the question is, how many Nigerians can afford it at 14,000?
Just like when the passport was increased, we talked about it here now. Passport 62 pages or thereabouts, or 64 pages, increased to 200,000 naira. The 32 pages increased to 100,000. And you talk about the minimum wage. Nigeria falls within the bracket of those that the passport price is higher than the minimum wage. Most countries will review their passport price. It falls within their minimum wage. But our own case, the passport price is higher than our minimum wage. What does that tell you? It tells you a lot. And when we talk about price stability, you cannot achieve price stability when you don't produce anything. Price stability is measured, in fact, is a function of your productivity.
I agree.
See, no country in the world.
Importing food and expecting the price of
definitely
stable.
No country in the world, even the US, that do not intervene when it comes to the foreign exchange. These things are artificial. It may not reflect the true value of what is being exchanged. It may not reflect it. So the point remains that if you don't increase their capacity when it comes to production, you will be at the receiving end.
And even when you spoke, Franklin, about doing exportation, we've talked about how the quality of what we do here is not even fit for export standard. So we should even start working on the quality here, being fit for export standard.
I might disagree with you to some extent. See, there are some things we produce here that can be exported, but the problem is that nobody has been given that protocol on how to make it to be exported.
It is also a sector on its own.
What changed?
That's what I'm saying. Hold on. Now, in Nigeria, we have Nigeria Export Promotion Council.
Yeah.
People are employed there, working there. But the problem is, are they giving those services to Nigerians for them to know how to do these things? Now, what happens now is that there are people who have raised their own capacity on how to export these things. They are the ones now who are telling Nigerians how to put this thing together on the market. Take, for instance, there are Nigerians who make good wares that are exportable.
Even dehydrated vegetables.
There are those who make good shoes that are exportable. But the point is, how do they get that? Do they have that information that can enable them to put these things out?
Okay.
There are Nigerians who can export yam, but do they know the procedure, how they can make it possible for them to export?
Remember, we have the best of some of these products. Most products you see out there, they are genetically modified, and we've talked about agricultural products. There are different genetic modifications where they are not organic.
Some reports have it that our own organic is still not up to their standard.
The point, it depends on the processing, just like he said. There are standardization when it comes to things you take outside there. There are standardization. There is level of either when they talk about neatness and processing, the packaging, these things, and mostly we may have some things were not put together. When it comes to manufacturing sector, it's a different thing. When it comes to agricultural sector, it's a different thing. When it comes to, there are many fields. There are different, there are different board game. We have the best of the oil. So the point is how to package these things the way it should be. Then the Nigeria Export Processing Zone, whether they are doing their job or not doing their job, because most countries will give you their standard before anything goes in there. That has never been the problem. The problem is the capacity to export. That's what we call balance of trade. That's what we call balance of payment. If you look at our balance of payment and balance of trade, they are all in deficit. The balance of payment is total transaction a country has with the rest of the world. And when you talk about this total transaction, what we're able to give to the world and what are you able to receive from the world is negative. Based on Nigerian calculation and based on the facts available to us. When you talk about the balance of trade, you are now talking about some of these goods and services you render to the world. You will import more than we give. And it's not going to take us anywhere. We have a very vibrant population. productive population that can do so much. Many of them are idle. When we talk about this insecurity, it has the economic leg, and that is where we always come from, because these people are idle, they are doing nothing, they can't lay their hands on anything. And there are those who probably push it further with all manner of religious rhetorics and fantasies. So the point remains that government, through their policies, have not been able to bring back some of those things. We knew in the past we had the cotton mill, textile mill, some of these things, they are moribund. You talk about groundnut, pyramid, there are so many of them. I had thought that by now this government would have done so much to bring back those old glories. And we are not seeing them as we speak now.
So let me add that when it comes to price stability, that's also a part that is man-made, which we have to find a way to deal with. Here in Nigeria, people have a way of
artificial scarcity,
creating artificial scarcity that gets to affect price. Do you know that very moment federal government opened the window for rice importation and then other food importation? Do you know that there are many people that are affected? Many people who had gone to buy bags of rice to store in a warehouse and wait, when it's the off-peak season, they'll begin to sell. It affected them because that food importation, of course, opened the floodgate of importation, whereby even a bag of 50 kg rice got up to 60,000 naira. So what I'm saying in essence is, in the midst of all these things too, there are also the Nigerian factor that always play.
There would always be.
Because the so-called businessmen or the middlemen who always try to rip off of the system by trying to create something artificial so that by the time they want to sell, they can get triple of the actual price.
They call it controlling the business environment, but of course, we see how it is affecting the average Nigerian, and the big question is, where does it leave the common man? That would always be my interest. But of course, we are shifting grounds now to some political matters, and the PDP is insisting that it is not going back on its planned national convention. Umar Dragum said it is sacrosanct. Of course, yesterday reports came out of, or rather reports flooded the media of the 6-point agenda or 6-point demand made by the Wike camp. But of course, the Magum spoke yesterday during the inauguration of the 110-member National Convention Organizing Committee (NOOC) in Abuja. He said the National Convention of 2025 is scheduled to hold in Ibadan, and it is sacrosanct, and he is going to make that clear. He also said that the convention committee is going to be led, or is now being led, by Governor of Adamawa State, Amadu Fintiri, while the Osun State Governor, Ademola Adeleke, will serve as the Vice Chairman of the NOOC. Governor Peter Mba would serve as Secretary. And of course, he expressed some sort of confidence in the team that he has chosen, the 110-member team, that this convention is going to be a reality. And so, Tony, I am curious to find out, without addressing the supposed 6-point demand, and of course, word on the street being that Damagoma is pro-Wike, is this like setting up the PDP for another round of goose chase? Just, go run around. We know this is not going to lead anywhere.
Wike is just like we have always accepted here, that he's holding them to ransom, and we can see it by his statements, demonstrations, outbursts, and what he feels that he can do. PDP cannot suspend Wike, and if they cannot do that, PDP is still a lame duck, no doubt. Look at one man, look at people he put together. Before now, they were 5. They call themselves G5, and now Makinde and Fayoshe seems to have just opposed their positions. In that G5, remember, you had Autumn, you had Ibazo, you had the former governor of Enugu State, Buruburu, Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, then Wike himself and J. Makinde. They were originally the G5, but over time, these people are no more in power. Now, though they are seeking for relevance, no doubt, they are seeking for political relevance. So now, you have Fayoshe, who is a rabble rouser, who has joined the foray. He has replaced Makinde in that very setting. And look at making 6 demands. That's impunity to the highest order. Anambra and then Ebonyi. State congresses should be conducted in line with that's what we are demanding, that a state local government congress should also be conducted, that a South Congress, the one that held in Calabar, should be upheld, and there shall not be microzoning. Who are these people? Who are these people?
Are their interests?
Who are these people?
Are their demands in the interest of the PDP?
Not in interest of anyone. Is on their own self. Do you know why they say they will not? Do you know what is microzoning? Microzoning is now the PDP has zoned to the south. They are saying in that southeast cannot take it up, because if you are to microzone, it will be southeast. The south we have south, southwest, and southeast. Southwest under PDP have had it under Obasanjo for good 8 years. South under Jonathan have had it for 5 years. Southeast had nothing, and Wike is saying do not microzone, because if they microzone to southeast, there are chances it could be P2B that these people will bring.
Would it bring the PDP to stability?
It will not. See, the issue is, why would Wike tell them to zone to the south but not to microzone?
My point is, Wike has been doing what he likes with them. Why is this one an exception?
The point remains that many of them are just there talking. By the time the chicken comes back to roost, he will find out that he has compromised them. In fact, if you push him further, he will tell you what he has given to anybody. I listened to many of them. Many of them must have been I'm speculating. I'm in fact thinking that he could have given them lands in Abuja, plus of land. Look at the way he comes out and tells you no land rent, no rent this, we are going to revocate this. Many of them have properties in Abuja, and he can easily revocate any of them, hinging on any tangible or intangible reasons. So he's holding them. So the point remains that this group, they are there to deliver President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and they have made it very clear. And if you look at some of the things that are demanded, it is tailored to deliver President Muhammad Buhari. And some of them that have danced to his tune don't know how to even cover their shame. They shame us.
And so that was why I asked you when I started, Tony. I said, whether they heed, we see that them heeding may not bring PDP to even the much desired peace. Because from what you have mentioned, even if they decide to microzone, or rather, even if they disobey by going ahead to microzone, right, it's still not going to bring PDP to become a united house. I fear it might also end up dividing them even
Let me
further.
ask you something. If we are the way we are in this very sanctuary, you have a different view. In fact, you are left, I'm right. Do you think that we ever be peace? There will never be peace. Why? Is because they have different interests, and they are not. I asked you this question last time. Whatever calculations they are making, is it to bring peace or to win election? The peace Wike is taking is for all of them to come. Let's deliver President Muhammad Buhari, and I will give you President Tinubu, and I will give you your shares. But people are saying, if we do this, most of us that are pursuing political interests in most of our states, it could be affected. Can we do this without making it obvious? This is just a disagreement. Can we do this without making it obvious?
So what would be the way out?
Wike is saying, let's do it and make it obvious.
So what would be the way out? They have the convention.
The way out is, if they have the balls, they should suspend Wike.
All right.
But they cannot do that. Is it?
Okay,
Wow.
because I was almost coming to this very point, because I want us to look at the capacity of the people who are on the side of Wike and talk about capacity, talk about their political capacity and political relevance. Buruburu of Enugu State, even when he was on seat as the governor of Enugu State, he couldn't win a senatorial seat.
He was roundly defeated.
He was defeated, and now he's out of power. And I doubt if his house is still a Mecca, so to say.
He cannot even win an election. He was anointed even as a governor.
So I'm coming to that. They look at Fayoshe, who has been dislodged in Ekiti State. You look at Autumn, who in Benue State, there are two factions of PDP. He is with one and the other is against him. Then you look at who again? Sam Anyang of Imo State. I don't know his political way in Imo State and others. Maybe Wike could be the umbrella, giving all of them shelter. Now it appears that Wike is the one playing the politics, trying to put spanner in the wheel of PDP. And PDP is not playing that politics. Now, if PDP feel that if they are going to suspend Wike, it's going to be a Herculean task, because they might not get the people to, on their side to be able to do this. Can they try to look at those his foot soldiers and see how they can get back at him and see if they can clip his wings? Take, for instance, if they're going to move in on Samanyang, for instance, going to Imo State to do the job, go to Enugu State to do the job on Uguanyi, go to Ekiti to do the job on Fayoshe. When they give them some bragging rights for them to be able to have a good negotiation, because Wike is seeking for negotiation, and he's negotiating from the point of greater power compared to the PDP. I listened to PDP Deputy National Legal Advisor saying that they have a committee that deals with indiscipline, that no petition has been filed against Wike and Co. To warrant their suspension. So if PDP wants to get ahead with their convention by clipping the wings of Wike, can they play that dirty politics that Wike is playing? That's number one. The number two is this issue of the National Working Committee and the governors, blowing hot yesterday. In fact, Bala Mohammed was speaking. You can't intimidate us. This, that. Omar Damagun was saying the same thing. The chairman of the planning convention or commission committee was also saying the same thing. So what stopped them from adding bites to all these their talk from here to here? What stopped them from doing that?
How would they? But Tony already said that he has them by the juggler.
That is it. Most of these men that are saying he can't intimidate us.
Now they are fighting.
They are not fighting anything.
No, I mean, is it really a fight or a show?
For now, the two sides are fighting.
That is what they want you to see.
Who's going to have the day? Now, two of you are on the ground. One on Naja before the Bonog.
See, I want you to understand that even the Bala Mohammed Fentere led convention committee, they are not fighting. Don't ever assume they are fighting. Remember, if you have followed one man that does a skit on politics and will tell you, let's see the edict. If you had followed him, if you will see the edict of what they are doing, they are on the same page.
Tony, what makes you believe that
they are on the same page?
That these two people are on the same page. What makes you believe that they're on the same page?
Because they have, see, one man made you not to hold your convention for more than a year. You keep postponing it. One man decided that this should be this, and it went that way he wanted it. Sam Anyanwu, look at Sam Anyanwu, the very reinstated national secretary, holding press conference with the group of G5. He has now made them G6, and you bow to that. Even when you had Jude Okoye, if you had wanted, you had before now caught before this week of a person, and you've had series of meetings, even the nocturnal meetings you keep having with him. They will give you one thing about Nigerians: they don't see beyond the optics, they don't see beyond the suffix. Politicians will make you believe whatever they present before you.
They show you what they want you to see,
and then you believe, you assume, and they will tell you, know what, let's go to the radio station or to the television station. We will be shouting and be having a match.
So Tony, are you saying that the likes of Bala Mohammed, they are working for the re-election of President Bola Tinubu?
Yes, I will tell you that. Bala Mohammed, remember, you can verify. Most things are projected here. I have not seen one that failed. One, remember, Bala Mohammed came out to say he's no more interested in contesting for the president.
Because they've zoned to the south.
Because they zoned to the south. That's what he said. Remember, Bala Mohammed,
which is the right thing to be done.
It has never been the right thing. Why didn't they do the zoning? Because of people who had interest from the north, and that was why the streets open.
But I say it's the right thing to be done. See, they have always had this northern-southern dichotomy within the PDP bloc, and as it is, the presidency is supposed to still remain in the south.
That's what you think. Politics is a game of interest. See, I've always said this. Look at the Bala Mohammed we are talking about. He may have baggages, and he has been asked the best way for you to be politically relevant is to support President Bola Tinubu, and he has come to that. Their own fear is, let's not make it too obvious. if we make it obvious, we will lose political relevance in our own domestic states.
All right.
That is just the issue. The point is that they are on the same side. Never think they are not on the same side. They're on the same page.
All right.
And I can prove it because they have bowed to Wike to every demand. Now they are saying, you cannot intimidate us. As if you have not been intimidated before. You've been intimidated first, second, third, because all the demands he's making, he keeps making the demand. And he's telling them that if you don't do this, that your national convention you are planning to have around December will be a nullity. And he meant it.
What mechanism does he even have to make that happen? Because
he will bring in litigations, the judiciary. I don't want to say. I don't know what makes him think he will make the convention a nullity. The only organ of government that can make the convention a nullity is the judiciary. And from Wike to boast, he will make it a nullity.
Oh well.
You will understand more.
Yeah, we know the strings he can pull in the judiciary. He's been doing that in the past, giving houses and all of that. But then he has also fined FCT land defaulters 5 million naira and added a 7.5% charge. What do you have to say to that, Tony? Has also told them that it has to be paid in 30 days.
There are people he's targeting. It could be those who are saying you cannot intimidate us. He's trying to tell them that, you know what, remember this, that we still have unfinished business. And one thing is this: if you're a politician in this country and you don't have a property in Abuja, you are not grade A politician. And who now does the assignment and revocation? One man. Every politician in this country, for you to be called a grade A politician, you must have a property in Abuja. And one man can revoke and can also assign. And leaving all these people that are shouting, you cannot intimidate us. Many of them, he knows all their properties. He knows how to hold them. He knows how to hold them to a jugular. And he knows how to make them to bow. So it is important that sensitive position, many of them have hotels, they have a lot of properties in that very place. So for him to have increased these charges, he is targeting some group of people, and they know themselves and they know why he's doing what he's doing, but he will make it appear that he's doing it on a general ground. Most times when policies of government come out, there are people that are intended for their policies and they are the targets.
So but Tony, Yes, Wike could be doing what he's doing. There could be political motive somewhere. If you try to read meaning into it, there could be. Mark that very word. But at the but at the same time, what do you say about, people committing some infractions when it comes to land use act or land matters, and then you give the opponent a window, a leeway to latch on that, to get back at you. Let's look at this Abuja of a thing. Some persons who got land in an area that's supposed to be a reserved area, you're not supposed to have a certain kind of business premises in that very area, and you go on to erect that. I'll give you an instance of what happened in Anambra State some time ago. That should be Udoka Housing Estate. Yes, Udoka Housing Estate, where that housing estate was not meant. Originally, it was not meant to be used for certain kinds of activities.
Okay.
And then some buildings there were later converted as offices. At a point in time, government moved in as much as people read political meaning into it. But government moved in and said, because of so and so infraction, that's why we are doing this. So in this case in Abuja, if there are some infractions that the FCT minister decided to latch on to do what he's doing, are we going to give the defaulters, are we going to give them any kind of benefit of doubt? Also, okay, it serves you right because you fail to do the right thing.
Most times, government comes out tall on issues. Most files, and there is no book that you open, you won't see any, how they say it it's an African proverb anyway, how they say it. And when you wait on a particular moment, a particular time to open a file, most files you open, you will see some infractions, irregularities, and deficiencies. And when you do those things for political reason, it becomes political. But you ask, what about those infractions? You give them time ahead of, you give them warning. As a matter of fact, the government, most year, once you approach a new year, government releases policies for the year. But at that time, it won't be seen as politically motivated statement of policies. Policies are measured mostly on yearly basis, on annual basis, with the intent well spelled out. But the idea is we have got so many things wrong in this country. We have not done anything, as far as I'm concerned, right. We've not done anything right. Even in our housing policies, our physical planning, and there are so many things. If you have to talk about area of buildings and properties and some of the things, there are some. If you want to begin to cleanse the urgent tables, we'll map out the period. 2026 will be for this. 2027 will be for this. 2028, everybody will see how well intended some of these things are, with the hope to regenerate things that have been lost. But at any point it comes in a year, at any particular time, issued a 1 week, 2 week, or a month notice is politically motivated. There is nothing you will tell me about that, and I agree. We know how the people we copy our democracy from, we know how they do things. They plan ahead, they plan for the future, and whatever they do is future intended. We don't do it here. So there are so many things we have got wrong. We are all defaulters. Even the person issuing those things is also a defaulter. How do we correct that? Normally, we must plan ahead. We must have mid-term, long-term, and then even immediate. So we must put those things, and everybody who sees it knows that, you know what, if it is urban regeneration, if it is this, if it is that, we know well that this is well intended. So the point remains that they will wait on areas they can hold you. Remember how they usually demolish people's hotel and remind you that their hotel does not fall within the fiscal planning survey of the state, and it is just political.
All right. We need to take a break at this point, attend to some commercials. When we get back, we'd open up the phone lines and you'd have your chance to say what you feel about the topics that all the developments that we have conversed on this morning. Do stay.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic. Public announcement. The Anambra State Housing Development Corporation, ASHDC, wishes to inform all the allottees of the Obuwane, Liberation and Green Valley Housing Estates, Oka Capital Territory, respectively, that the corporation has opened up all the roads in these estates. Consequently, allottees are to take physical possession of their plots and develop same to habitable state. It is mandatory that allottees secure the necessary approvals before proceeding for development. Allottees who fail to comply with this directive risk revocation of their allocation. Be also informed that we have limited number of plots in these estates for allocation to interested persons on first come first allocated basis. Please be guided accordingly. Signed, Jane Okafor, Head of Media and Marketing, Anambra State Housing Development Corporation.
Your quality bread, Wendy's bread, for your family breakfast, Wendy's bread. Our kitchen they do yellow, Wendy's bread. Mama, papa they like Wendy's bread. Not kitchen they do, Wendy's bread. Even children they like Wendy's bread. Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread. Get it better, tasty, we go sweet your belly. Wendy's bread, Wendy's your body. Wendy's bread,
Wendy's bread, your tasty bread. You can contact us on our official address, 2nd Business Park, Enugu Road, GRA, beside Commissioner Anambra State. We also have another branch at St. Michael Plaza at Tandy Road. Also contact us on 070-1149-1571. Wendy's bread, your tasty bread.
Wendy's bread.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic. You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
Right, the number to call, or the numbers to call are 0803-827-6694, 0803-221-6974. Put a call across and let's hear what you have to say. And you have 2 minutes. Be as objective as possible. Go straight to the point. And please turn down the volume on your radio set. Let's hear you. Good morning. Are you there?
Good morning, my honorable Secretary, Olisa Mbeki.
You're welcome. It's good to have you.
Good morning, Chisom and Ebuka Franklin.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
All right, my name is Michael Together. I'm calling from the commercial city of Onitsha this beautiful morning.
What do you have to say?
So we claim father is APC and the PDP. We should quite understand that Wike is working for APC, for Jagaban, who employed him. We should not forget that. Our eyes is not closed, and our ear cannot, our hearing, and our mouth can talk whatever we see. See, let me make it very clear. Wike will be working for APC, but playing advocate with PDP. Let me make it very clear. Maybe people can even design their political appointment, or maybe 6 hours or 3 hours before the election, the person will divert to another appointment for politics. Let's not just understand that sometimes like this, people do things to favor themselves. They don't even care what others are doing. They don't even want to know. Which, as it is now, PDP, just like what Honorable Speaker says, PDP cannot side Wike because if they do, they are going to cause a lot of problems because they are the ones who cause all these problems. The issue is here, you have to put our finger crossed and watch. Maybe in 2027 or Jagaban is working for Wike, maybe 2031. We hand the APC flag there so we get to contact the president. Good morning. Have a nice day.
Good morning. Have a good day too. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Olisa Mbeki.
You're welcome.
FM Franklin, good morning. It's a beautiful morning today. What I want to say is my personal opinion. Wike is not a very nice person. Any person that chooses blackmail in any form to power his colleagues cannot be said to be a leader or a player. So we got to start watching him and start giving him his own dose back. Now to the issue at hand, our economy. When Dr. Okonjo, my name is Odezi, when Dr. Okonjo visited, she was told that our economy was stabilized. I understood what they meant. I mean, an naira has been floating 1,005 to 1,006 for quite some time now. Maybe that is stabilization by their standard, but what has that impacted on our economy? House economy, human economy, food, shelter, transportation, cooking gas, payroll, and the rest. What are we exporting? What are we manufacturing? You pointed it out there. What are we giving out? Rather, we've been borrowing and taking from other people. Now they say we are not borrowing anymore. So what do they service the borrowing they've done with? Are they going to start using us humans give them for the ones we borrowed already? It's rather a shame. Nigeria is so blessed that it is embarrassing. We have the biggest economy you can think of, most youth population. What have we done with them? That's only you talk about it every time. What have we done with them? Because we're cowardly. We don't have the willpower to put these young people to work. Look at the immense natural resources we got in this country. Do we really have any right to complain? All we can do is maybe fold our hands and cry in shame. You can't go to God and say, give me food in Nigeria, or give me children in Nigeria, or give me mineral resources in Nigeria. We can say that. It will be shameful if we do. May God continue to bless us. And then let's begin to look inward. Let's begin to look inward. Let these politicians, I beg, they call themselves politicians. Let them go elsewhere and see how the politics is done. It's for the common good of the people, not to rip up the people and build your own interest where you can stand, see our money. Have a good day.
Good morning. Good morning.
Wonderful morning to you. Lady of the House, Chisom Chinedu.
Good morning.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker Franklin. Good morning to all of us. Honorable Deacon, I'm calling lecture.
Go ahead.
What we need is democratic dividend to be given to Nigerians, which is our right. It's what the president or Wike public office holder should be concerned themselves with. They just have limited time instead of telling us all these fuck and bull stories, whether Naira is stable or Naira is not stable. That's not none of our business. If you are not ready to governance is a serious business. For instance, all of you at the studio there, you all are doing very well. Those in Al Jazeera, CNN, France 24, they are not better off than you. But you can see the giants, you're doing very well in a station that just been inaugurated, and you can see the waves taking all across the east. So, likewise the politicians, whether governor, senator, President Bad, Wike, what we are yearning for is our own democratic dividend, seeing it on ground. Not just trying to tell us what we can feel on ground. So I think trying to tell us about the exchange rate to Naira, though it has been stable to some months, but that's not where you let the money. Okay? How much are we buying? Let's not forget that money realized from the subsidy has not been accounted for. How much are we getting from this subsidy just removed? Nobody knows. Are you running a kind of a Putin administration or Xi Jinping or Kim? I think they are gathering in Beijing now for some summit. This man just pocket the whole nation in their pocket. And you see intellectuals keeping quiet. You see learned men and women in Nigeria drumming support of this, what you call it, dictatorial administration. Look at what they have just done in River State. Do you call this a democracy? So I think what they are telling us, we know we don't need it. They should keep the story for themselves, or for their children or their wives. What we need is the democratic dividend. That is what we have to feel on ground. Securing of Nigerian properties and lives. That is what we want to feel on ground. Amnesty came out and gave us a report of how many people that have died under the watch of President Bad. Okay, a lot of things. Look at the actual policy. So economic policy.
You should be rounding off now.
Yes, I'm rounding off. So we are personally to me and other people who are like-minded like me and other right-thinking Nigerians. Let them keep these stories for their wives and children and their loved ones, and my own right is what I'm demanding for. Thank you so much.
All right then, 0803876694, 0803221697. We are live on Facebook. Drop your comment there as well. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
My speaker, good morning.
Good morning, you're welcome. It's good to have you.
My Tommy, good morning. And also Franklin.
Good morning.
This is Akamara. I'm calling you right now from Figure. I want to react on PDP. The faction in PDP. See, I want to say that the PDP, they are not serious. If they cannot stop Wike or suspend him, so whatever they are saying, whether they are saying that they cannot allow Wike to do, to stop this convention, I don't think that they are serious. Because Wiko is serious in his own trade. And you see it at the end. All of them, they will bow to what Wike is saying. So, let them just take the decision. If I'm among them as a PDP member, if it only will take me to go to jail to suspend Wike, I will suspend him. Let me go to jail. That is my decision. Because the guy has, destroyed this PDP. How can he, being a member of PDP, and also working against PDP? It's not good. It's anti-party this thing. So they're supposed to suspend him immediately. So if they allow him to be talking and having his men going anywhere with them and talking, in fact, I am not happy at all. So concerning what the president has told us that they have gone to the limit, their limit of borrowing. Well, let's continue to see whether he will stop borrowing. You will see tomorrow he will just tell the National Assembly to give him go ahead to go and borrow again. This country has finished. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your contribution. Let's hear you. Good morning.
Good morning, my speaker, Tony Mbeki. Good
You're
morning,
welcome.
Chisom and Franklin. This is the voice of Honorable Denisius Okoye from our ancient kingdom.
Go ahead.
And sorry, I want to ask you a question. Can Matu and Anyanwu, can this convention hold with the other signatory? Number one, we knew them. He knew why he's posting. Like you like to mention one, judiciary. And the two things that give me power is the judiciary and the kind of judiciary we are having this year in this country. And these two key men in PDP, I had what he said last time, that if the bench put P2B, they will visit PDP. I think the best thing for for PDP now, like you likely say, is that they are fighting to install Tinubu, and some of them have no interest, are not one with them. They are going to kill PDP, and when they kill the PDP, some will go to APC, some will go to ADC, and they stop it there. And I wish our brother P2B, they match with Tinubu and Atiku in ADC to see whether they will forge ahead and form a credible opposition. We have no opposition now in Nigeria. Thank you.
All right, then.
Answer me that question, please. I'm in need of that question.
All right, Tony, you'd get to answer him just in a bit. Let's hear you. Please turn on the volume of your radio set. Good morning.
Mr. Betty, good morning.
You're welcome. It's good to have you.
Yeah, Mr. Basil, calling from Onitsha.
Go ahead, Basil.
Let me speak on the issue of the president, about president's side about dollar. And I want to ask you, what is the essence of borrowing to put it in a reserve, in the foreign reserve? You borrow and put in the foreign reserve. What is the essence of borrowing to stabilize the dollar? To put in reserve to stabilize the dollar. What kind of borrowing is that? And we'll be servicing the debt. It's not. How many of us in Nigeria has benefited from borrowing? Can we say Nigeria is going stabilizing when we cannot buy something to eat? Nigeria is stabilizing when we can go to market and buy something and eat. We are keeping dollars in the foreign reserve when hungry is still not here. So how many people is going to observe that dollar then? Nobody. And they kind of you have a kind of two friends and it's killing them and they are telling them you give the root of money for them. That when they grow, they will go and affect that money. When they are hungry is killing them. They are just eating what to eat, and they are putting money in our reserve where we can't see what to eat. It's very appalling. They stop deceiving Nigerians because we are Nigeria. We all know what to do. But the problem is that we don't have anything to. We don't know anything to do because we don't have any that power to do something. They have crippled Nigeria to an extent they take Nigeria as a fool. Somebody like me can open up and say something like saying, and nobody cares about it because it's in the charm of that thing. And we think that Nigeria is fool. They are taking Nigeria as a fool, but Nigeria is not fool. See what is happening to PDP. PDP can never stand up again. PDP has been, and one man has been PDP. Whatever they are doing now is just burial. They are looking for the failure of PDP. They will bury themselves and nothing will happen again. Everybody is going to eat. SPC is going to go. And if you don't, there is nothing like this to send Nigeria again. fight for democracy. So let's know that we all know, tell them that we know what they're doing. That we don't have power to fight. If you have, Nigeria have power to fight, they will fight. They don't have power to fight. Because hungry is the people. Is it not when you free yourself, when you are strong that you go and fight? Nigeria is hungry. Nobody is free again to fight. Thank you.
All right then. Thank you for your contribution. Let us hear you. All right, then you should try to reconnect. 0803-827-6694, 0803-221-6973. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Dr. Olisa Mbeki,
You're welcome.
Franklin and Chisom, very good morning to you. Chidi Chukuma joining you from Bob this morning.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Chidi.
thank you. The statement of Mr. President is just a political statement. Why is it coming out now? And also, where is the indices that there is improvement or that we have met our economic target? That there will be no more borrowing. What is the effect on the ordinary citizen of Nigeria? The people are dying of hunger, and our currency, the disparity between our currency and the foreign currency is still very, very wide. Staggering economy, and all this economic meltdown in Nigeria, and somebody is telling us that there is improvement. And the issue of borrowing, does it make based on meeting of economic target? Borrowing is to fund the project. Where there is a project, if you don't meet up, you have to borrow to fund project. But here in Nigeria, that somebody is telling us that even in America, we know that they borrow. They borrow for purpose of investment. The more investment that will yield them profit. But here in Nigeria, most of the borrowing is for just a mere looting and sharing among themselves. And it's telling us that there is improvement. I think this is a campaign of next election is already. It's just campaigning for election. It is a false prophet that tells people that everything is good when people are dying. The false prophet will tell you that all is very, very good. I thought we can never believe him because we are not fools. Good morning.
All right then. Good morning. Let's go to Facebook and see what you have to say there.
Okay, so from our Facebook page, we have some reactions, like the one that came from Dr. Mrs. Ma Olebara. She always writes from Imo State, so we are going to begin with that very one. She says, I call on Nigerian citizens to bring pressure on President Tinubu, the National Assembly, state governors, and the state assemblies to immediately cut down the high cost of governance in Nigeria, set up a credible economic team devoid of political affiliation, reappraise and reorder its programs and projects, and address unemployment and poor level of infrastructure. The economic team should also dispassionately examine the unbelievable spendings and so-called palliatives, SUVs and empowerment, threaten away our common wealth and the war against corruption. Master Bay says, my question is the law designed to be impartial, fair and just, treating everyone equally and without bias? Malam Nasir El-Rufai exclusive to be questioned for his utterance. It means Nigeria leaders actually know the sponsors and the people who are causing insecurity in the country, killing innocent citizens for nothing. Let's rise up to get our voter cards to do the needful to clear this ugly situation. Okay, he's watching from Onitsha. And the Rotarian Obia Wikejiku says, okay, as he said, he's so laughable that NCEC is calling for preparation for local government election after seeing what happened in the last one. Okay, let them go ahead and fill their members without wasting our time and resources. All right, thank you. And also Francis Somagan Namani says, as 2027 general elections is gradually getting momentum, PDP should do everything possible to woo Mr. P2B to run for presidency under the umbrella. He posted from Amagunzi in Enugu State. Mbechiobi says, I want to talk about the weekend PDP. People's Democratic Party should by now have expelled Wike from the party. Okay, he posted from Ihiala in Anambra State. Then Tino BS, Cynthia and Kim, thank you for joining. Mazin Riechi Padoromus Nachi says it's quite unfortunate on how presidency keeps on fooling the masses on daily basis with hard lies. PDP are not even serious on their steps because fear of Emperor Wike is the beginning of wisdom. And besides, Wike is like Pep Guardiola of 2029-2022, who has dominated everything in football. So let PDP members be careful with him. Kata Dera Enama. All right, thank you for commenting from Udala, Onitsha.
All right, that's some of the comments we've heard from Facebook. But Tony, someone asked a question earlier. I think you just go straight to responding to that.
And then the person was asking if the party needs the signatures of Damagun and Anyang before convention will be held. Yes, it's needed. So if Anyang decides not to pen down any notice to INEC for convention, it does not mean the convention will not hold. Supreme Court has said many times that notification to INEC for any convention, congress, primaries, meeting, political parties meeting to is just more like ceremonial, that if they do not come, it does not render the convention invalid. If that convention notification is only signed by Damagun, INEC may say we will not appear because the secretary did not append his signature. But based on the rulings of the court, it does not invalidate the outcome of that very convention. I think I answered that question in a way.
So, just to add, I think that should be about, it's up to 1 month ago. It was on Vanguard newspaper that PDP had written to INEC to notify the commission of the coming convention.
Yeah.
So maybe they have crossed that very path.
Even if they have, whether they have just for academic purpose. And then at the same time, just like Mr. President, remember we must also admit here that Mr. President just around, he was saying that there is no more borrowing. But let's not forget that in May, he was able to send a borrowing plan for 2025, $21.5 billion external borrowing plan with about 2.19 billion euros, 15 billion Japanese yen, and about 55 million euro grant, which was approved by the Senate on July 23rd, 2025. That was on July. Then when that was approved, even before then, the same July, Mr. President sent a borrowing request to the National Assembly when he sought approval for about $347 million loan under the 2025. So when he says there will be no more borrowing, we had one he had sent which was approved by the National Assembly, about $21 billion and even 2.19 billion euros and then 15 billion Japanese yen. And under his watch, we are not counting these ones anyway because we can't see if that had been given or not. But under his watch, the country has borrowed about 62 trillion naira as a president within the space of 3 years. I think he has not spent up to 3 years in office, but he has borrowed as a president 62 trillion naira. Buhari under 8 years borrowed 65 trillion naira under 8 years.
That's and under 2 years, we are counting
62. And then if you also look at Jonathan, under that period he was the president, Jonathan borrowed about 4 trillion. So you can imagine how much he has borrowed under that space. Even when subsidies were removed. So people are concerned, why would you remove subsidy? And Mr. President has traveled about 37, he has made about 37 trips in different countries.
All right.
So we can go on and talk about some of these things. They are economic realities, but it is time for us to take stock, make analysis, and do evaluation. That's what we're doing here.
All right, then, Franklin, thank you for being here today.
Yes, I read somewhere that if we're talking about this stability we have enjoyed in the exchange rate, whether it's relative or not, that some forex traders are saying that what they now see in the forex market is that some Chinese traders are now collecting naira instead of dollar, and that has in one way or the other helped to reduce the pressure, this very demand for dollar. and it's counting for us.
Well, at the end of the day, personally, I look forward to a day when these supposed policies and changes start to reflect on the cost of goods and services in Nigeria rather. That is the only thing that matters to the common man. That is the only thing that matters to me, as a matter of fact.
Of course, everybody is going to agree with you that until the moment when, people begin to see that reality. But like I always say, two things are involved. The real thing and Nigerian factor, because even when the price comes down, the traders,
we have Consumer Protection Agency to take care of that. Are we all doing what we should do?
Hardly.
Oh dear.
Hardly.
The Polity is going to make a return tomorrow 9:15 down to 11 a.m. Until then, my name is Chisom Chinedu. Thank you, Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki, for your wonderful analysis. Thank you, Franklin Ebuka, for being here today. See you tomorrow.